Hi everyone, this is Hillary Ellers from Lightworks Studio, and we are going into the third part of our lesson on the individual and the collective. So, the individual and the collective, part 3. I hope that I've said this over and over, but I hope you're following the lessons in sequence. Um, it will mean so much more to you if you do that. So let's go back to our look at the collective. And one of the interesting things that happens is that at death, people often leave some parts of themselves. In a way, they give parts of themselves to the collective, particularly if they are working on a certain project that is important to them that's unfinished, or if there's anything that they've been doing that they hope another person may pick up on and carry forward. And you know that your entire life has been collected in the collective, but there's a special way in which you can sort of implant something you are about or something you're working on in the collective. And you may send ideas, realizations, awarenesses, discoveries you've made, and you really, as you do that, you're really offering them to anyone who can use them. And I want to tell you about a very, very interesting experience my last husband and I had. One day we were walking in a mall that was closed. It was a Sunday. And we were just, I think we had gone there to eat in a restaurant that was open. And so then we were walking around the mall and looking in the windows and enjoying ourselves, nothing big going on. And all of a sudden, we both had these ideas about a man we knew named Marcel Vogel. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but he is a very well-known person. I knew him from some of the work I had been doing at West Georgia College. I was speaking there, and I met Marcel at a conference. He was also teaching and speaking. And my last husband was a dentist, but he was also an inventor. And it seemed as though Marcel and my husband, and then Marcel and myself also, made a very nice connection with each other. He was an inventor. He was a research chemist and worked for IBM for 22 years. He held 32 patents. And he's very famous for inventing the part of what enables the hard disk drive to work that's still being used. And IBM is still manufacturing it and using it. But another thing about Marcel, he was a very interesting man, a lovely man. He was very interested in metaphysical things and crystals. Oh my gosh, he was so interested in crystals and the energy of crystals. And he developed a special cut for quartz crystals, and that cut is still being used, and it is called, those crystals cut to his specifications are called Vogel crystals. And they vary in price. Some are very reasonable, some over $1,000 for one crystal. But Marcel developed a system in which energy would enter the crystal and it would circle within the crystal and resonate and increase so that it could then be directed for healing. And so people who want to work with stones and crystals in particular could very much benefit from Marcel Vogel's inventions and discoveries. One of the things he was doing that I thought was funny but interesting, he was developing a wiring system for television sets that if you arranged your television according to his specifications for a wiring system, you supposedly could communicate with people who had departed and they were in the afterlife or on the other side of life. And he just was such a generous person. He was just handing out to everybody the plans for how to do this, you know. And I wish I still had that. Maybe I could look it up. It might be online somewhere. But as we knew him, he actually invited my husband and I to go to California and work with him. And that was such an honor, you know, to be invited. And we weren't able to do that at that time in our lives. We couldn't stop things going on. And I have often, very often, regretted it. Well, this particular day, my husband and I were walking around the mall, and it was mostly closed down, as I was saying. And we were just window shopping and talking and whatever. And we started thinking about Marcel Vogel. And ideas were coming to us, and particularly to my husband, and with his inventive nature, you know. And he was talking about how he felt, he meaning my husband, felt that crystals could be arranged a certain way to amplify their energies and, you know, all this. And I was sort of getting ideas, not quite as technical, but I was feeling, oh boy, was I ever feeling all these energies. And we talked, for several hours about all this. Later, we discovered that on that very day, Marcel Vogel had died. And I feel so strongly that when he died, he put his ideas and his inventions and things he was working on and things he was building, I feel that he literally gave those ideas and projects to the collective for whoever could pick them up and use them. And that made me really, really begin to believe in this idea that people leave projects they're working on or special things particularly things that mean a lot to them, they leave them in the collective, hoping someone else will pick them up. It reminds me of someone who sets a briefcase beside like a MARTA train or something, and leaves it there hoping someone will find it and use whatever the contents are. So there are all kinds of things in the collective then that are sort of unfinished ideas, they're sort of unfinished projects, and it stands to reason that if people put special things that are special to them into the collective, then what happens? Somewhere along the way, some people must be picking them up. And one thing that happens, and so at death, people leave things and then reverse to that at birth. Some people coming in bring, first of all, we bring all of our own stuff, with us. We bring what we're going to need to do our mission in any given lifetime. And according to your soul development, you have more or less freedom in building the life you're going to come into. And the more development you have as a soul, the more freedom you have to create the life of your choosing. But always, even if you are a very advanced soul, your teachers and inner guides and those who are helping you on the other side of life when you're in between lifetimes, always, no matter how developed you are, your greater self and your inner teachers will always help you choose what you're going to bring in to the next lifetime. And I look at it in this way. I think of everyone has a wardrobe, and we have summer clothes, we have winter clothes, we have beach clothes, we have clothes to do our housework in, clothes to paint the house if we're going to paint. We have all these different articles of clothing. Now, in a given lifetime coming up, maybe, now this is of course a metaphor, maybe we're going to be painting a house. Well, we're not going to bring a mink coat in if our work in that next lifetime is going to be all about painting. So we're going to bring our painter's outfit in. And we may bring some brushes in and a ladder and those white overalls and whatever. So we literally, think of it this way. You go to your closet and you have all these things that you've earned and you've gained in each of your other lifetimes. And you look at what you have and you think about what your mission is. So think of your clothing as your attributes and your talents, the things you built and maybe haven't and don't use in every lifetime. You pick and choose according to the mission you are defining which attributes, talents, and abilities you want to bring in with you. And as I've said, according to your spiritual development and how old the soul you are, you have more freedom in picking and choosing all on your own, or with a lot of help from your teachers and guides. As you gather and organize all these aspects of yourself, you also bring in some of your least developed parts of self so that they have a chance to grow. So you're not just picking up your high points and your talents and abilities, you are also picking up your problems and some things you're not so good at, things you don't understand yet, and you choose to bring them in also because that will help them develop. I remember one time I had the funniest thing happen to me. It was really strange in a way. I knew a person who was sort of a, I guess more like a good acquaintance, not quite a good friend. And she happened to be in a therapy group that I was part of. And one day in our therapy group, she said, "Hillary, you act so different in here than you do out of here. I mean, you act so much more together when you're not in here." And everyone in the group just looked at her. And it was sort of like, that's the whole idea. I'm here to work on my undeveloped self, you know. I'm not here to work on all these things I'm good at. I'm here to work on what I'm not good at. And so we do some of that too when we're coming in. Now there's a third thing we do. We actually look at the collective and we look at those things which have been left in the collective for anyone who can use them. Remember when I said people leave their projects? They sometimes leave things they've discovered or their interest or whatever. We also pick up some of those things that really are not exactly ours, but we pick them up if we can work on them, and it will help the collective, or it may even actually help the individual who placed a dynamic there. I had a very, very interesting experience about this. One year, I used to live in St. Petersburg, Florida, and come to Atlanta, Georgia to work. And I would come to Atlanta and make money, and I'd go home to St. Pete and live on it. And I did that for quite a number of years before I moved to Atlanta. So I remember one year something started happening to me, and I went into, I think, one of the deepest, heaviest depressions I have ever gone into. I was so depressed. I got to the point I didn't even bathe for a while. I just couldn't do anything. I couldn't express any self-care. I could barely get out of bed in the morning. And I don't know how I was working, but I was during that time. And my teacher, Ann Manser, used to always tell me that somehow I would rise above whatever my personal state was and move on up to where I need to be to do my work with people. Well, let me tell you this, I might have been doing that, but on a personal level, I was down at the bottom of the barrel. And I'd never felt like that before, that depressed or sad or just, And so one of my friends was a healer, and she did a particular type of healing to music. And she would work on an individual's body to the tempo and rhythm of the music. And it was more or less classical music, good music. And she would, almost like you're the instrument and she's playing you. So she offered to work with me because I was so depressed and so, in such a bad place. So I was on the table and she started working with me, and she started down at my feet and da-da-da-dum, da-da-da-dum, and she was working up my body, and it was okay, but nothing was really happening. So she worked on up my body more and more, and when she got to my neck, I had this flash of a vision. And in the vision, I was walking down a pebbled street, and I had on very expensive shoes. My clothing was very fine. The fabric and the quality of my clothing was very fine. And I had the feeling that I was Rasputin, and I was in Russia. And I went through several experiences, and then finally, in my vision, I had a death experience as Rasputin. And I went through all the things that happened to Rasputin. He was poisoned and shot, and his hands were tied up, and he was thrown under the ice, in the frozen river, and I went through all of that. And the one thought I kept having was I was so angry because I kept feeling like if I could only communicate with the Tsarina, she would save me. And I wasn't able to, So I felt so much better after that. I mean, the depression lifted. I wasn't in all that pain I was in. And it was very confusing to me because I kept wondering, was I Rasputin? And I've never quite felt I was Rasputin. But then again, that could be denial on some level. He has such a bad reputation. Although after this experience, I studied his life a great deal, and he wasn't a bad man at all. He was part of a sect called the Clisti, I believe. It's either Christie or Clisti sect. And he was a zealot, an absolute religious zealot. And sexual ritual was part of their religion, the people in this sect. But I really studied him very in great detail. And I have never known yet to this day what my connection is to him, except I know having that experience helped me. And I've wondered, did I pick up part of his energy to work it out somehow, to work it to a better conclusion within myself or something? I think maybe I did. So it's very hard to say, and maybe I'll never know, but you may have a thought about it yourself. What do you think? And have you ever had anything like this happen to you? Take care. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. I really love this lesson. I love this material and all the ideas. I hope you do too. Bye. So just relax and allow yourself to focus on your breath. And as you focus on your breath, just feel how good it feels to breathe. Every incoming breath is bringing a soothing wave of relaxation through your entire body. And feel your muscles letting down, relaxing, growing longer. Every incoming breath brings a soothing wave of relaxation through your entire body. And just feel that wave. Each of your muscles relax, letting down, growing longer. Allow your shoulders to drop. Every outgoing breath carries with it all of the tension of the day, all out and away from you. Every outgoing breath carries all of the tension of the day out and away from you. And when you feel that you have relaxed as much as you possibly can, find yourself relaxing even more. From this deeply relaxed place, imagine now that you are more aware than ever before of what you brought in to this lifetime. And just observe the strengths you brought. Just observe the weaknesses with no judgment, simply observing. See the strong points you hold, and then also allow yourself to be aware of the weaker parts of your psyche, those parts that still need support, that still need healing. Know that in this awareness you can address both your strengths and your weaknesses more clearly. Give thanks that you can touch this deep level of clarity. Now, gently begin to return. Find yourself returning to the safe anchor of your physical body. And when you are back now, begin to move. Let yourself stretch or wiggle or rub your hands together, rub your face, open your eyes. And I really hope, as I keep suggesting, that you'll write about your meditations in your journal. This one, I think, is a very important one because it can really help you look at the definite things you brought in to work on. And maybe, and I hope it will, help you have a gentle, loving attitude toward yourself. So be it, and all blessings to each one of you. Thank you.